Good day, everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about ridge characteristics. Okay, so what are these ridge characteristics that we are referring to? And yes, if you remember, we are having this as, or it is being termed by Francis Galton as minutiae. Okay, and then these are considered to be just a little points of details. Okay, these are little points of details, but we are not going to disregard those little points of details. Okay, because or bakit natin ba hindi natin ito dapat baliwalain? Okay, because these little details, these minor details are considered to be the ones that we are going to use in comparing the latent print, okay, or the fingerprints that we were able to find out in the crime scene in comparing with the fingerprints that we were able to collect, or the fingerprint that we were taken from the suspect if he was arrested. Okay, and then with that, those or these rich characteristics or these little points of details that we are going to have now, okay, these are the ones that we are going to look on more, okay, in order for us to find out if that fingerprint is produced or made by a single individual. Okay? Para masabi natin kung yung latent print is parehas dun sa fingerprint na nakuha natin dun sa suspect. Okay? So, these are the ones that we are going to use to have a conclusion. Okay? So, these are the rich characteristics that we have here. Okay? It has different types. And the first one is the recurving ridge. Okay, so what are we referring to when we say recurving ridge? So when we say recurving ridge, it says in here that the ridge that curves back, okay, that curves back in the direction in which it started. Okay, so as we have in here, in this illustration that we have here in our PowerPoint presentation, you can see here several or lots of recurving ridge. Bakit ko nasabing there are lots of recurving ridge? As you can see in here, this is the point. Okay, this is the point or the starting point of the ridge Okay, so we have here. It starts in here and goes up and then curves back from the from the direction which it is or which it started. Okay, so as we have here another illustration, it starts in here and then it goes back to the point or where to the direction where it started. Okay, so that is a recurving ridge, or this is a recurving ridge. Okay, so we can say it's a recurving ridge if it's just like that. Okay, or it doesn't end, or it doesn't goes or curves back to the point where it started. Okay, so this is again, if that is the that is also, or if it is like this also, the ridge is like this. Okay, we can say that that is a recurving ridge because it doesn't have, or it doesn't curves back in the direction which is or which it started. Okay, so that is, or this is just a basic sample of a recurving ridge. Okay, moving on, another ridge characteristic that we can see if we are going to examine a fingerprint is a converging ridge. Okay, so ano naman ang sinasabi nating converging ridge na ito? So it says in here two or more lines, okay, forming an angle. Okay, a ridge whose close end is angular and serves as a point of convergence, usually pointed. Okay, so by the word itself, converging, dalawa sila, they are separated and then there's a meeting point, or they meet at center. Okay, or there is a certain point that they were able to meet and they were able to create an angular, okay, like formation. So as we have here in our illustration, let's try to use it in this way. Okay, so looking at here, okay, it starts, or the ridge started from here. Okay, single ridge started from here and then it separates. Okay, but this is not what we term as converging. Okay, so it separates and then there's a point that they were able to meet again. So two ridge and then they were able to meet in here, and that is what we so called as converging ridge. Another one is there is two ridge, okay, going up, and then another one in here, and then they were able to meet. Okay, so let us try to draw again. So here, and then another single ridge, and then they meet at a certain point, and then we call that certain point as a converging ridge. Okay, this is a converging ridge. So that is what we refer to as converging ridge. Take note that it should not be uh, the other way around, because when we say that it is a single ridge and then it separates, that's the time we are going to have here now so-called bifurcating ridge. It's different, okay? But when it meets, okay, nagkasalubong sila, the meeting point, we call it as the converging ridge, okay? So it's not a converging ridge. Now we have here the diverging ridge naman. Okay, so when we say diverging ridge, yes, it's also separating. Okay, however, the difference here is not with regards to the two single two ridges and then forming an angular. Okay, but when we say diverging ridge, this is usually where we can create, or whenever we can start the type lines also. Okay, so as we have here an as we have here an illustration, we have here the diverging ridge. Bakit nasabi natin na these are the diverging ridges? Okay? Why it is said to be the diverging ridges? Ridges, because it says in here two ridges running side by side. Okay, side by side. They are running side by side. This side, this is the this is a single ridge, and then on the other side, this is a single ridge. So side by side, facing each other, and suddenly separating one ridge going one way, going from the top, okay, and then the other ridge going in another way. That's why these are what we so called as diverging ridges. And as you can see in here, we have here a an imaginary line in here that was formed, and then that is what we so called also as the point of diverging, okay, or point of divergence, right? So anyway, this is what we so called as diverging ridges. Okay, next in here, we have the so-called bifurcating ridge also. This is what I'm saying a while ago, that it's different. This is what I'm saying a while ago. Okay, it forms usually letter Y. Okay, why? It's because it splits, or it's a single ridge that splits into two formation or two ridges. Just like in here, in our illustration, we have here a simple bifurcation. Just a simple bifurcation. Okay? And then we have here descending bifurcation because it comes from here, or it might uh, or the ridge might come from here, from the bottom, and then curves back, and then it bifurcates, or it forms, or it separates, or it split into two. That's why this one, we call this as the descending bifurcation. Okay, and then ascending bifurcation, just the opposite, going upward, and then it separates. Then that is what we so called as this is what we so called as ascending bifurcation. Okay, and then trifurcation naman, if the single ridge, by the word tri, if the single ridge separates into three. Okay, it bifurcates into three, then trifurcation. Right, so that is for a bifurcating ridge. And next in here, we have the eyelet. Okay, in other words, they call it as lake, or if not, they call it also as ridge enclosure. And lastly, they can say, or some say, it's just an eye. Okay, so what is this? So it is a single ridge which bifurcates, where the bifurcating ridge converge. Bifurcating ridges converge at a certain point to form again into a single ridge. So we have here an illustration again. So we can see some eyelet, okay, lake, ridge enclosure, or eye in here, okay, by looking at this, or by taking this as an example. So we have here a single, okay, we can see here a single or double ridge. Okay, let's take this an example, this part. Okay, so it starts from here, okay, and then it stops. However, it is fragmented, and then it continues, and then it separates, okay, or it bifurcates in here, and then suddenly they converge, and then with that they were able to form an enclosure or a lake, or the ones that we have in here, that is what we so called as lake, islet, range, enclosure, or line. Okay, another example, okay, because I think we can see, or you can see it clearly in the other illustration. So let's say in here again, it is a single ridge, it bifurcates, and then suddenly, okay, they were able to converge again, and then with that, okay, with that, since they were able to converge again, there was a formation, or there was an enclosure that was formed, and that is what we term as islet, lake, ridge enclosure, or eye. Okay, so this part. Right. So next in here is the term or the ridge characteristic dot. Okay, and then some say, or in other words, series of dots, because there are some fingerprints that has lots or series of dots in the fingerprint. Well, it says in here they are fragmentary ridges formed like a dot or dots. Okay, so in some fingerprints you can see, let's say we have here a loop. Okay, and then on the edges, or I mean on the center, there are some dot formation. Okay, or if not, most of the time we can see the dot also in some of the delta, I mean the converging ridge. Okay, so we have, I mean diverging ridge, I should say. So sometimes there are dots in here, and then sometimes we choose that as our delta. Okay, so those are, or these are, or that is what we so called as that. Okay, it's different from the island, because when we say island or short or series of short ridge, it's not a dot formation. Okay, it's different. So we have here a short island. As you can see here in our illustration, there is a short island. Okay, or it's just a short ridge. Okay, that is what we so called as island, short, or in other words, short ridge. So it's just a small ridge or fragmentary ridge, okay, by short in size or series of short ridges. Okay, and the next in here, the ridge ending. So simply when we say ridge ending, this is the terminate. It is a termination or ending of ridge or ridges. So simply it's the end point, okay, of the ridge. And then again, this is also the ridge ending on the upper part. Okay, and next in here is the fragmentary ridges. By the word fragmentary ridges or fragmentary, it means it's like a broken line, okay, or disconnected sequence of short ridges embodied intensely. Okay, take note that it should be, okay, they appear dark and as thick as the surrounded ridges. Okay, because if it doesn't say has the same thickness with the other or with the surrounding ridges, then we can say that is a fragmentary ridges or fragmentary ridge. Okay, or as you can see in here, there are some fragmentary ridges in here. As you can see, there is a ridge. I mean, it is okay. So we have here. We can say that it is a an island, okay, because it's actually just fragmented. It's just fragmented. So as you can see in here, it has the same size, and then it was disconnected, and then it continues again in here, same as with these parts. Okay, they are fragmented. Okay, and then we have here, it was disconnected, and then it continues again, and then was disconnected again, but it has the same size and thickness and darkness. Then we can say that is a fragmentary ridges, right? But if it doesn't, if it does have the same thickness, then basically we can consider that an as a fragmentary ridge, right? And then we have here a ridge hook naman. So we can see in some of the fingerprint patterns, we can see a ridge hook also. What does it looks like? Okay, it's just a hook. So we have here a single ridge, and on that ridge, okay, there is a hook that was formed. Okay, so it's different from I mean, it's just a short, okay, it's like a short ridge attached on the single ridge, and then we say that that is a ridge hook. So again, it's a ridge that divides to form two ridge which are shorter in length than the main ridge, and that is a ridge hook. And take note, it should not reach the other, it should not reach the other or the opposite ridge, okay, but because if that if that is the situation, or if that is the case, then we can say that is not a ridge hook, but we say that that is a ridge bridge. Okay, it's a bridge because it connects the two ridges, okay, facing each other. So that is a ridge bridge. And then this is the term, or this is also, or we have here also the term incipient ridge or nascent ridge. So ano tong sinasabi naman natin na incipient or nascent ridge? So it says in here, a kind of ridge which is madly formed, thin, short, or broken, which appear or appears in the depressions between two well-formed ridges. Okay, and usually it doesn't have the same sizes, or it does not have the same thickness from the surrounding ridges. Okay, as you can see in here in this illustration, we have here the main region, or I mean some ridges, okay, and they have the same thickness, but on the center part you can see in here there is a single ridge, but it doesn't have the same thickness. It does not have the same thickness with the surrounding ridge, right? Does not have the same thickness. As you can see in here, it is thinner, it's very much thinner than the other, or the surrounding ridges. So with that, we can say that those are incipient ridges. Those are incipient ridges. It doesn't have the same thickness. Okay, they are madly formed, in other words, as described in our source. So that is what we term as incipient ridges. Okay, or we have in here. Okay, so it has they have the same sizes, okay, but there is a light ridge, or light or thick or thinner, okay, thinner ridge that was formed. Then we can say that those are, or these are, we can say that these are examples of incipient ridges. Usually we can find them in the middle or in between ridges, right? So that is incipient ridges. Or take note also, it's otherwise known as nascent ridge. And then sufficient recurve naman, this is what we're referring to, or this is usually what we look on to form or to locate also, or to describe the shoulder of the loop. Well, we have here a picture, an illustration. So where is the sufficient recurve? So we have here the sufficient recurve. Okay, why we say that that is the sufficient recurve? Because it says in here, this is the space between shoulders of a loop free of any appendage abutting at any right angle. So this is okay, it doesn't have appendage, and as you can see in here, this is also what we say as the sufficient recurve. Okay, this is the space between shoulders, because these two, this S, okay, S formed in here, or S letter in here, symbolizes the shoulder of the loop. So this is the shoulder of the loop. And where is the recurving, I mean sufficient recurve? This is a sufficient recurve to form the shoulder, the shoulder of the loop. Okay, and then moving on, we have here another one, the appendage. So simply we have here a ridge. Okay, we have here a ridge as complete, or I mean a recurving ridge, and then on the upper part, or on the topmost part, there is a short ridge, and that is what we say as the appendage. Okay, it's a short ridge at the top. or summit of a recurve, usually at right angle. Okay, right angle. So anyway, that is appendage. Next one, we have here also the core, and this is the ones that we are going to usually, or this is usually the first one that we are going to look on first, aside from the delta, in order for us to perform several method also when it comes to ridge counting and ridge tracing later on in the Henry classification or in the fingerprint classification. So what is a core? So usually it is a point on ridge formation, usually located at the heart of the pattern. So core or at the center. Usually it is connected or it's found on the center. So as we can see here in the illustration, you have here the core and the delta. So as I've said also a while ago, where we can find the delta, usually we have here the diverging ridge. Okay, diverging ridge. And then the other one in here is this. Okay, this is the diverging ridge again. And then with that, there is a certain dot in here. Then that is the delta. Okay, and where's the core? The core is found on the center. So usually it is in a formation or it's in the shoulder of a recurving ridge in the middle. Okay, or if not a rod or a bar, okay, and others. So that is what we are going to look on the different rules in locating the core. But usually core is located at the center of every pattern. Next in here, delta or the triradial point. Okay, delta or triradial point. So we have here the other one. So as I've said, it is usually found on the uh, diverging ridge, okay, or the point of divergence. Usually we can locate the delta, and it is in a form of the different or in a form of different ridge characteristics again. Okay, so it is a point of ridge formation or directly in front or near the center of divergence of the type lines, as I've said. And yes, we have here the envelope. Okay, the envelope, it is a single recurving ridge, okay, enclosing one or more rods or bars. So we have here an illustration. So we can say that these are the rods. Okay, rods. It is composed of two rods. Rods or tinatawag natin po ito na mga bars. Okay, so bars, and then with that, saan dito yung sinasabi natin na envelope. Okay, take note, it is a single recurving ridge enclosing one or more branch. So what or which is the single recurving ridge that encloses the bars? So we have here the single recurving ridge. It's here. Okay, so this is the envelope. Okay, so this is the envelope. And same as with this. So which single recurving ridge encloses the bars in here or the rods? Then this is what we so called as the envelope. Okay. And next one is friction ridges. So these are the ones that are strips or characterized as strips of skin on the inside of the end joint of our finger. Okay, as you can see in our illustration, the raised strips, these ones. Okay, the raised strips or yung mga nakaangat na part ng skin, okay, outermost skin natin, those are friction ridges. And they are also called, take note, they are also called as papilla ridges or epidermal ridges. So in comparison with the depressed formations, okay, or canal-like structures between the ridge, okay, between the ridges, we say that these are, okay, those ones, those depressed ones, we say that those are furrows. Okay, if we are going to have here an illustration, especially fingerprint, as an impression. So we have here these dark ones or the dark ones that are being formed in a fingerprint impression is what we so called, or that is formed usually by the fingerprint ridges or finger ridges or friction ridges, I should say. And then the white ones, okay, center, those are formed by the furrows. Okay, so now we have here the rod or bar, as I've said a while ago again. These are the ones that are a straight, just like a straight ridge formation, usually at the center, okay, at the center of the pattern. So it can be not a single, or we can see single bar, okay, double rod, okay, triple, okay, and so on. So usually in a loop pattern, we can find a rod or a bar. Okay, next in here is the upthrust. So upthrust naman, it is a ridge or ending ridge of any length rising at a sufficient degree from a horizontal plane. Okay, so as you can see in here, these are example of upthrust. So it's a ridge on a horizontal plane, and there's an appendage, just like an appendage or up. There is a short ridge facing upward. That is what we so called as upthrust. So it's the same in here. So it's horizontal, and then there was an end. It is also considered as ending ridge. Then it forms an upthrust that is, I mean, that is upthrust, or what is so termed as upthrust. Same as here, and with these ones, and also this one. Okay, so those are termed, or they are referred to as upthrust formation. And next is, what is this so-called the dissociated, okay, dissociated ridges. So these are, or these dissociated ridges, these are ridge structures having no well-defined patterns. Okay, it doesn't have a well-defined patterns. As you can see in here, we can see if it is a loop, we can see, or we can say if it is a whirl. Okay, and we can see if it is an arch. Okay, there is no pattern or well-defined pattern that we can see in here, and this is an unusual structure. It's because, hey, the disturbance of developmental process at early fetal stage. Take note that the fingerprint is being formed from the time, or still the child, or the infant still inside the womb of the mother. Okay, and then with that, we term them as dissociated ridges. We can say, or we can define an specific pattern, especially those basic, or the three basic patterns that we have. Okay, dissociated ridges. And then we have here the shoulder of the loop. Usually it is the point, or it is the point at which the recurving ridge definitely turns or curve. Okay, so this this is the recurving ridge that we are referring to a while ago. Sufficient recurve. This is the sufficient recurve, and then with that, the ones that forms the sufficient, or we can find, or we can locate the sufficient recurve, is by looking also on the shoulder of the loop. So this is the point which the recurving ridge definitely turns, or starts to turn. Okay, so from this moment, or from this point, and then turning back. Okay, and with that, that is what we term as shoulder of the loop, same as in here. So this is the point where it starts to turn, and then with that, that is what we term as shoulder of the loop. And then sometimes we use this also in specifying the core of our pattern. Okay, and then puckering naman, this is usually formed, okay, or it is a situation wherein the growth ceases at several ends and the end curls slightly. So usually it is on the it's because of getting old. As you can see here, the skin is become, the skin, okay, becomes, or starts to curl, or in some cases it's because of the uh, task, or the type of job that they are having. Okay, just like in here, this hand is exposed with water. That's why it forms a wrinkle like structures on his hand. And then with that, this puckering, okay, this puckering, it's because of the uh, it's because of this puckering we are having these so-called creases. Okay, creases are thin or usually straight, narrow white lines running transversely or formed side to side across the point, causing the puckering of ridges. As you can see in here, there are white lines. Okay, there are white lines that are formed. It's because of the puckering of ridges also, or in some cases, it's because of wound. Moving on, we have here now this term type lines also as a ridge characteristic. So type lines, it's very much important also in fingerprint classification. So this is considered to be the basic boundaries. Bakit kaya it is considered to be as the basic boundaries? So as described in here, ridges that run parallel, starting from the lower corner of the pattern and flowing inward and upward towards the edge of the pattern area where they diverge and separate. Okay, then surround the pattern area, form them. Okay, this is or these type lines also we were by finding or when we were able to determine the type lines, we were able also to find out the pattern area of the fingerprint pattern. So as described, okay, it starts usually from, or we can find, or we can start it from the diverging ridges also, or these are the diverging ridges, and usually, okay, so as we start from the lower corner of the area, going inward and upward. Okay, and then until it follows or we follow the ridge until it ends. And on the other side, okay, because these are ridges runs parallel, these are running on the other side, and with that we were able to find the pattern. We were able to create the type lines, or the we were able to identify the boundaries of the fingerprint pattern. So this is the type line. Okay, so that is what we term as type lines. So ridge A, okay, following until the end, and then we have here ridge B, following it until it's end. Until it ends, and with that, those are the type lines. We were able to create the type lines, and surrounding or within the type lines, inside the type lines, that is what we term also as the pattern area. So this is the pattern area. Okay, again, we termed this a while ago as the type lines. We are referring it as a type lines. These are the type lines, and then with that inside of it, okay, we term them or we say that that is the pattern area. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. And we have here the staple. A staple, as defined in here, it says in here that it is a single ridge, or single recurving ridge at the center of the pattern area. Okay, take note, it's a single recurving ridge at the center of the pattern area, at the center. Okay, so again, these are the type lines, boundaries, and then we have here the pattern area. So where is the center of the pattern area? We can see it here. And with that, what is the single, or where is the single recurving ridge that we can find in the center of the pattern area? Okay, so this is the centermost recurving ridge. Okay, centermost recurving ridge in here, and that is what we term now as, or what we say as staple this time. So in comparison with envelope, okay, envelope, it is a single recurving ridge enclosing a rod. Okay, in this pattern, we can see a rod in here. Okay, we can see a rod or a bar in at the center. Right, so that's why we say that this is a staple. Okay, and next here is the spike. So this is usually found in a tented arch uh, uh, fingerprint pattern. Okay, so usually these are found again on tented arches. So this is an ending ridge at the center of the pattern area, which forms the upthrust. Okay, so as you can see here, the spike, we can locate it in this part. So this is an ending ridge at the center of the pattern, which forms upthrust. So we have here the tenth. Okay, in other words, it's a spike. Okay, it's a spike or a tenth. So this is the one that you can, if you were able to see this kind of or this ridge characteristic, then possible that pattern. Okay, or we can say that the pattern is a tented arch, right? So now we have here the focal points. So when we say focal points, we are referring to the core and delta. These are considered to be the most important thing that we should locate, or we should be able to locate when it comes to ridge counting and ridge tracing of whirls and ridge counting of loop later on. Okay, so that is what we refer, or those